Ladies and gentlemen, welcome after the movies. Show that's kind of like at the movies, except it happens after. That's our tagline, and we're sticking to it.
Or before, depending on when this is filmed.
Or, you're right, exactly. You never know. But
Nobody will ever
I
know
am
our
your
secret.
host. I am your host, Aaron Mook. I am here with another host, the ghost host with the most on the East Coast, Jimmy Lombardo.
I'm like Space
James,
Ghost, but better. I don't know why I
Jimmy.
said that. I'm not better than Space Ghost. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. Shit.
This is the second episode, and you're gonna have to deal with this for everyone, baby, because these are little free nuggets for our Lomo fans and friends and fiends out there that you can snack up on. But I'm warning you, because after like 5 or 10, I don't really know yet. We'll check the numbers. We'll see how the numbers do. If you guys really like this show, if you guys give the show the views and the listens, we'll do 10 of these. We'll do like essentially one season for free before we start making it a Patreon exclusive. If you don't appreciate what we give you,
do really better, we will find another show that we'll put on the Patreon and keep this one
and keep this one. We'll just recycle whatever works. But we are focused on, I think, new films, trending films, and like one-off genre films, which seems to be a big topic this time around. We did Fried Berry, obviously, for our first film, and today we've got another Shudder exclusive, Psycho Goreman. But as always, I want you guys to turn the lights down. What's that country song? It's like, so, baby, turn the lights down low.
I don't know, but this is a movie podcast, not a country music podcast.
We're watching Psycho
so.
Goreman for Lomo. So we need to put the lights down. You're at the bar. Jimmy, what are you drinking tonight? What are you ordering for our comfort discussion of Psycho Goreman? You have a beverage. This is so perfect because I do too.
I have a seltzy.
So what are you drinking?
I have a
seltzy.
Peach seltzy.
That sounds fantastic. How is it?
It's good. I'm not going to say the brand because I want to be sponsored. So if you're a seltzer company, you want to sponsor this podcast, I'm just saying.
Yes, you should. I am going to say the brand for my beverage because it is a very special episode. This is something we would, unprecedented. We would never do this on At the Movies. But I'm here to give you guys an exclusive. So let's say I'm feeling nostalgic, like this movie. I'm feeling like I want something very colorful, and I want, this movie's got a lot of blues and purples in it, so let's roll with that. And let's say I'm just like, I want something that from the 90s that I can't get anymore. But what if it was re-released for a very limited time this summer by corporate soda company Pepsi? That's right, folks. Today I have Pepsi Blue. 90s beverage, the second biggest failure of Pepsi after Crystal Pepsi. It is a berry flavored cola. It is still a cola from my understanding, but it is mixed with like a berry flavor. I do kind of wish that they had gone with like a nostalgic look because it's kind of just the new Pepsi logo.
It kind of just looks like that Pepsi's bad to me. Like
yeah, somebody just like left a Pepsi out in the wild for a few weeks and it just turned this color. Controversial due to a specific coloring agent they used in the original, which is no longer a part of the beverage. I will be honest, I did not have this growing up, so it is kind of like being nostalgic for something that I didn't ever actually have, which is similar to Psycho Goreman. It's like, I like the Power Rangers, but I didn't grow up in the 80s, so it's kind of this like, we're gonna see, will the movie be as artificial and sweet as the beverage? Who knows? But I'm gonna give it a taste right now.
Nice.
I'm gonna get that sweet.
No.
Fresh bevy, and I am now going to sip the Pepsi Blue and give you guys my first reaction.
It's more than a sip, ladies and gentlemen. That is It is a big boy sip.
I was thirsty. Mm. Um, it is very, um, it's very sweet. It does still taste like cola, which is surprising to me. It still tastes like a cola. It tastes like you mixed Pepsi with the Blue Mountain Dew Voltage, which in my opinion, one of the better Mountain Dews, but does it belong mixed with a cola? Can't tell you. All I can tell you is I am thirsty, but I did enjoy it. So maybe sipping on that through the episode.
Nice. And for
What I love,
everybody that's confused at home, this movie that we're reviewing or talking about, because this isn't a review show, we don't really review movies, we talk about them. It is not rated PG like I thought it was, and was very confused for the longest time. This movie was not rated, and we saw it when it released on Shudder, which is something that Aaron turned me on to, which I greatly appreciate.
yes. It's funny that you say that because we were watching this, and I would say that we got a third of the way through maybe before you were like, I'm just really surprised at the amount of gore in this PG movie.
Yep.
And I thought it was a bit at first. I was like, that's funny because the movie's called Psycho Goreman, but it's also called like PG Psycho Goreman. And I was like, haha, and you're like, no, like this doesn't make any sense. It is an R-rated film. It is kind of it's a movie for that sweet spot. Like I do think that nostalgic people will like this. People who want that 80s itch scratched. But I also think that this is like it's definitely an R-rated movie, but like if you are over the age of like 15, you could probably see this as like a teenager and this would be like your favorite movie for a while. 'Cause it's so sugary and over the top.
Yeah.
Like an 80s cereal that freshly opened Lucky Charms.
It was an interesting movie for sure. I mean, it had a lot of, it was an adult kids movie, which was interesting. I've never seen anything kind of like that before, where it was a kids movie in the sense that our main characters, Mimi and Luke, are running around as normal kids would in an adult environment with their new pal and sidekick, old Psycho Gorman from Gydax or Glidax. Gydax.
Some kind of planet with a starting with a G and ending with an X. This is the second film from director Steven Kostanski, who is known for The Void, a movie that I enjoy very much. Some people say that it is just essentially an effects reel, an excuse for an effects reel, and you know what? I'm not going to say they're wrong, but I'm going to say that I love it anyways because it's a movie with cults and monsters and spooky things happening in a hospital, and it is a great practical effect thing. And guess what? The practical effects in Psycho Goreman, the same thing. You're looking at this is like Jimmy said, it's like a kids movie for adults. We've mentioned Power Rangers a couple times, and this is rubber suits galore, baby. This is like there is robots and aliens and costume designs that are scary and creepy to look at and also hilarious and weirdly nostalgic. There was a giant organ grinder walking around.
You had no idea what that was. We both thought it was a paint bucket at first. We were like, oh, he's spraying paint. And then it was like, oh no, those are people.
He's got arms and legs like sticking out of the top of him. There was one that scared Jimmy that looked like a child witch in
Hated it. Ooh, I forgot about that actually until you reminded me. That was bad. I was like, no.
Unblinking eyes. It was very that is definitely a huge draw for this movie. I would say is just like you won't for better or for worse. I mean, I love practical effects and most people do. Sometimes they do look silly, and in this movie they do look silly sometimes, but that's part of the fun and the charm, I think. So
none of them made sense, but they were perfect though. Like they weren't like cohesive at any point. Like none of like the world made sense. There was the Templar, think about all of the good people.
Yeah.
There was just a random assortment, which you can assume are just different planet like leaders being led by the Templars, and then the Paladins were like, there was like the guy that looked like dollar store C3PO. That was one of the guys, the organ grinder, the guy that was, I believe, from Psycho Gorman's planet, who was the leader at the time, because they do leader by committee or whenever they feel like it. But they were all different. None of them were the same. So it's like there's all these different planets, all these different people, and it was cool because they were like, we're designing, it's like 10 different people had different ideas, and they were like, let's do it.
What's really funny to me too is this is a movie that is like, so there are different languages in this movie. When aliens speak, sometimes it'll be subtitled, but the Templar, they just all speak English. And it feels like a thing that's just done for the listener. It's like, you don't want to sit here and read. These are mostly jokes anyways. It's like more a comedy. It's more of a super stylized niche comedy than it is a horror movie. So they're like, people aren't going to want to read that. So all of the Templar speaks English. But what I would say is like the first hour of this movie is like, we're going to do everything that you want. What do you want? You want to see Psycho Goreman eat somebody? Done. You want to see like his home world and all this stuff? You want to see like all of this crazy, these scenes that I think other directors would be like, oh, this is unfilmable. They managed to do this background sequence where you see like not the birth of Psycho Goreman, but like his character was a slave on this planet and then like broke free, and other directors I think would just be like, there's no way we're gonna do that. And Kostanski does it. And some of it's CG, some of it's practical, but like, again, for better or for worse, it's like super impressive to see that sequence. But then the last half hour of the movie, the director says, oh, what's that? You wanted to see all of these things? Well, guess what? Now for this last half hour, you're in my world, baby. I'm going to show you whatever I want to show you.
This is the point of the movie where I did not like the movie. I'm just going to be transparent. I loved the movie, and then all of a sudden, right at the end, I was like, no.
It is like somebody saying, it's like you're in Willy Wonka's factory, and you say, pixie sticks, please, and a man from Olive Garden comes over with a Parmesan grater, but it's filled with pixie stick dust, and he starts to crank, and at a certain point, even as a child, you say, okay, enough pixie dust, but he goes, no, you get more pixie dust. You get all the pixie dust, and if you don't finish it, well, you don't want to know what happens. Psycho Goreman will eat you if you don't finish all of your pixie dust. This movie, I mean, so like, this is another thing where it's like, I don't want to go over the plot beat by beat, but I just do want to go over like a few things that happen just because it's so absolutely insane. Essentially, there's these two children that, now, how does this remind me? We just watched this. Psycho Goreman, does he just happen to be buried in their backyard, or does like a comet hit their backyard or something?
So here's the thing. It never really says why he's in the backyard. We see Mimi and Luke, who dug an amazing hole in the yard without any like excavator or anything. I have to say that was
it's so mind-boggling, because I am gonna go on I dug a hole this weekend. Dug a hole yesterday, and I had 4 people working on that hole with me, and it took us 5 hours.
Yeah.
And the hole is 1.5 feet deep. Now, granted, it's a trench, so it goes like 10 feet long, maybe something like that. I don't know. It was so hard to do. My arms and legs are so sore. There's just no way that this hole could have been excavated.
But these kids dug probably like an 8x6.
Perfect hole.
Perfect. Hole. To discover
you'd be hiring them for landscaping if you saw this.
Yeah, they would make a killing. But they found this nice little gem, and they meet their new friend Psycho Goreman. But as you were asking, there is nothing to tell us why that was buried so deep in the ground. The only backstory that we get is the Templars catch Psycho Goreman and strip him of his powers and put him in that like tomb of silence, and then all of a sudden it's like that's it. So we don't know like how it got to Earth. We don't know why it's on Earth. We don't know if it was just floating and a hit, but
Yeah. It's not a complicated movie. It's pretty straightforward. It's just that there is so many just like weird like flourishes and moving parts. I mean, the plot is super simple. He is awakened on Earth, and the children control the gem that holds his powers. So he is unable to kill that. He needs to do whatever they say. He has to follow their instructions. So if they say don't kill me or don't kill my parents or whatever, he has to follow it. And so this leads to all kinds of funny stuff where it's like spin, Mimi has the gem and she's like spin my brother around. So he like levitates his brother and starts spinning him and like things like that. This master of worlds and death is used to essentially do children's tricks and games for much of the film. But then, as you said, there's this Templar that initially imprisoned him, that he rebelled against, and they come to Earth to kill him because he's kind of the John Wick. He's kind of the titular, like if he were to go unchecked, he would kill all of them.
mm-hmm.
So they one person in particular, whose name I don't remember. Wow. Pandora is like a mecha, like a robot person, who comes to Earth in a practical effects suit and has to catch Psycho Goreman, and that's the movie pretty much. But then there are these things like the kids have this game called Crazy Ball, and it makes no sense. It's a nonsense game. And at the end of the film, there's this thing where you're like, he has, as a warrior, he has one opportunity to kind of protest his fate and challenge Pandora to a game, and if he wins, then she can't take him and all this stuff. And so he chooses Crazy Ball. And this is, as Jimmy said, kind of where the movie goes overboard. It has like 3 different endings. This movie has several moments where you're like, all right, let's wrap it up. And it's only a 90-minute movie. So that doesn't really bode well for its consistency. Kind of like you made this at home. Like it's kind of like you made the Voltage Pepsi thing at home. Then you get to the bottom and there's like chunks of berries and sugar. And you're like, oh, I did not mean for that to happen.
The Crazy Ball sequence at the end. Now, I'm fine with them playing Crazy Ball in order to like seal the fate of humanity and Psycho Goreman, because that's fine. That was already established early on. Problem that I have is that it took so long. It was... You could see each of the characters was throwing their own dodgeball. They were going through the different ins and outs of Crazy Ball. And at this point, I was like...
It felt like a 20-minute sequence.
Let's wrap it up. It felt like the whole entire movie. I'm gonna be honest with you. That ending felt like it was the whole movie.
Well, there's this. It get like you said, it gets crazy. The mom, Pandora. There's this division of the family, because the mom and dad are kind of fighting throughout because he's lazy. And by the way, that character is very funny in the movie. The father is very, very funny in how lazy he is. To the point where she calls him lazy, and he takes so much offense to it. He's like, my teachers called me lazy. I told you not to use that word.
Yeah, the word's banned in that house. The word lazy is banned in that house. Not allowed.
So he and Mimi kind of understand why it's important that Psycho Goreman gets his powers back and is not taken, by Pandora. But at the same time, the wife is mad at the husband, and Pandora shows up to her and explains the situation, and she thinks the Psycho Goreman's a menace, and Mimi is mean to her brother, so her brother is also kind of like, I don't think this is a good idea. I've seen Psycho Goreman turn like 3 people into alien brains and zombies and stuff, which happens in the movie, which is a lot of fun. So you just end up with these 2 teams of people playing Crazy Ball, but it's crazy things happen. The mom gets turned into a mecha. She drinks a potion, and now she's wearing a rubber robot suit. And I don't know. I think I mean, we sound down on the movie, but here's the thing. I thought it was great.
Oh, the movie's wonderful. I definitely recommend it to everyone. It's just the ending kind of lost me. Everything
It
else in this
goes,
movie,
yeah.
perfect movie. I enjoyed it. I was laughing. It was cracking me up. I loved all the effects, and it would have been a solid film up on just right on the end. It just lost me.
Yeah. I would say it's genuinely funny.
Oh yeah.
There's a few parts you laughed really hard at. He turns their friend Alistair into like a giant brain that just
Mhm.
has to like crawl around. And what does he say? Do you think I'll ever be normal again?
Yeah.
And she's just like, no, probably not,
No,
and just
even
like
though
kind of shrugs him
she
off.
holds the power to change him back.
And she just doesn't.
She's like,
Yeah.
it's like, am I ever going to be normal? And she goes, nope.
Right.
And
This movie is like very funny.
yeah, it's a good one.
I was gonna my favorite bit is the father's on the toilet. Psycho Goreman's been wounded in a fight, and Psycho Goreman appears to him like telepathically while he's like on the toilet, like this. He just appears as this face in the bathroom with him, and is like, "You must come save us now. Like the fate of humanity, rests on you." And then he disappears, and the dad's like, I don't know where you are. And then he like reappears a second time. He's like, we're in the woods, like out by Highway 61 or whatever. We need you to come as soon as possible. And then
Gives
he
him the
disappears
exact address of where.
again. And yeah, the dad's like, I don't know where that is. And he has to appear a third time. And
It's like right off the highway.
most of the jokes land.
Yeah.
I really do think that this is almost more of a comedy that's just styled like a horror movie in some parts, and a sci-fi or a fantasy movie in others. Um, last I think that it kind of sets the tone to be that way, and I think what doesn't work for me personally in the ending is just that there is a lot of moments about, like, maybe fittingly, maybe this is almost like an 80s thing. There's a lot of moments that kind of try to be sentimental, or they try to like actually have a message kind of at the end where they're like, value of family, or the loving your family above all. And I just don't think it is a movie that anybody needs to think about hard at all. I
No.
don't think it needs to. It doesn't need to have its cake and eat it too. Like, it
Don't
could
like
just
think that there's
be
some like big understory or some huge
right.
like plot they're trying to get through or some story they're trying to deliver in some way. Nope. It's just a movie. And I hope that like Kostanski like tweets at us. It's like, you completely missed the whole entire point. I'll be like, oh, okay. That's fine.
This is gonna be the most like misunderstood movie since The Godfather 3. People are going to. This is going to be like, there's gonna be a Kostanski cut that's like, the studio made me cut all this, but it turns out the movie is, I don't know, about family. It is about family. It's just, it doesn't feel, the beats don't really, those beats, as much as the jokes hit, I would say those beats kind of miss. And I also think that, again, it is a movie.
Well, because you hate the family, you end up hating that family. Like, it's not
right.
like
The only character that's likable is Psycho Goreman himself.
yeah, because Mimi just gets fueled by power. The father is the laziest, most apathetic, just doesn't care about anything in the world, just letting his kids do whatever. His wife is stuck doing everything. The wife is so passive aggressive, it is like hurting me, until at the end when she just finally blows up, and then all of a sudden they're playing dodgeball at the end.
And her brother is like also just like such a pushover, so passive that you're like, man, this kid like really can't even begin to argue with his like 8-year-old sister. Like, what's going on here? That's another very funny part of the movie to me, is that Psycho Goreman on like 3 different occasions, he's like Mimi and boy. He forgets that the kid keeps going like, my name is Luke, you should know by now, and he just never remembers.
I had to look up his name before we even did this because it was so unforgettable. I get why Psycho Goreman couldn't figure it out.
The funny thing is, I rented this movie when it came out and never watched it. I forgot that I rented it on Vudu, and I never watched it. It sat in my Vudu account. So this was a first watch for me, even though I intended to watch it, and now it's got the rollout on Shudder.
Which I'm sure they made some decent money with the Shudder release, which is good. I'm glad that Shudder picked it up, because this is definitely a movie that people need to see. This is something that's different. They did something different. They didn't follow a traditional mold with this film. So this gets a strong recommend from me for sure.
I agree. This is very similar to Fried Berry in some ways, where it is But although I think that movie is a little more difficult to chew on. Like I think that one's a little kind of like you have to be in the mood for fried berry. It's hard to explain. I think they are similar in the sense that they are unique creations that are colorful and very interesting and very unlike other things I've seen. But I think Psycho Goreman is kind of like I want to have like a really good time with. It's a comedy. It's a comedy. Fried berry is a lot of things.
Not a
You know,
comedy.
it's a stew. It's a stew. A lot of food comparisons in this
Well,
episode.
we're really two big dudes, so I mean, it's bound to
We
happen.
are, and I haven't eaten dinner yet. I could go for a Psycho Gourmand sized meal.
There was one last thing that I wanted to add for
Unhinge.
me.
I'm gonna unhinge my jaw and
On
eat Jimmy
Hinge.
from across the screen here.
So as we approach last call at the after movies bar, Aaron, Psycho Gorman approaches our bar, and do we serve it another round or do we cut it off?
Ooh. So is this like this is our final judgment on the film? It's like if we like it, we serve it another round. If we don't, we cut it off.
Yep.
Right.
Cut it off and we kick it out the back of the bar.
Maybe Psycho Gourmand gets another round.
It's another round, baby. Gets another
What
round.
I would say to retroactively, if Fried Berry came into the bar, heck, I'm serving him 2 rounds.
Yep.
I'll get him 2 shots at that last call that he can do a double with me. Psycho Gourmand, you get another round. There may be some movies in our future that we may need to cut off and kick out the back of the bar. But you know what? We're gonna see them anyways. For you. So, one last thing that we didn't talk about that I just want to get to real quick is that this movie, I know I said it was a comedy 10 billion times. The kills in this movie, awesome. They are they are super unique again. You get Psycho Gourmand eating people. You get a person that is it's digital effects for the most part, but you get a person that is like crushed in a metaphysical cube. and there's just, stuff. You get a guy that is it's again funny. There's a guy that is frozen. He says, "I don't want to die." Psycho Gourmand goes, "Then you shall live forever," and he freezes him, and it has all this suffering, and somebody bumps into him, and he shatters into pieces on the ground, but the little part of his mouth says, "Thank you."
When he turns that cop, when the cop gets like melted and disformed, and the cop hands Mimi this piece of paper. Is like,
oh my god!
It was like, "Please kill me," and he's trying to like shoot himself.
They have this gang, man. It's dark. It's funny. They have this gang of characters at one point, and there's this cop that, as Jimmy said, got turned into the toxic waste guy from RoboCop, essentially. And Mimi says, "I told you could write me love letters," and he hands her like this heart-shaped letter, but on the inside it's just blood that says, "Please kill me." The beats in this movie don't miss.
No,
I don't think. Well, I think that's it. I think that's last call. People should definitely watch Psycho Gourmand, again, streaming on Shudder. I think we're gonna have maybe a few more Shudder movies too, because the last drive-in season runs for another 4 weeks. So I would expect that. I would also expect we may be seeing a film that is in theaters right now. We may be watching a very prominent film that just came to Netflix soon. So do we announce? Oh, I guess we do announce kind of what we're watching at the end of these, don't we?
yeah.
So for next week,
It's not a surprise because if people don't watch the movie for next week, there's no point in keeping up with the show.
That's very true. I'm sorry. A bad bartender. Andy. Film that came out not a long time ago. A film that came out probably like 2016, 2017.
2018.
20 close.
Got it.
Close. Nailed it. It recently had a resurgence based on its popularity when Joe Bob Briggs showed it on. That's the second time I've stumbled over his name. Joe Bob Briggs showed it on the last drive-in. And it's a fun one. It is colorful like these past 2 movies, but it is an entirely different tone. So but I don't want to spoil our thoughts about it, but you should watch Mandy for next week. We hope to see you back at the Lomo Bar Should probably have a better name for the Lomo bar.
Probably Lomo Lounge would probably flow off the tongue a little bit better.
Baby. I love it. This has been a fun episode. The movie is a lot of fun, despite our very small, minor complaints about it. Please watch it, enjoy yourself, have a blast, because these are the kind of movies that we need more of. We need people that are just unafraid to go
just
buck
do whatever
wild
they want. Yeah,
take the biggest swing possible. I love it.
And make sure to watch Mandy before next week. Make sure to watch Mandy.
Yes. Until then, I'm Aaron.
And I'm Jimmy.
All right, get out of my bar, fuckers.
It's last call. It's where I crawl under the bar.
Last crawl.
Last crawl, baby.